Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Before we get into this episode of the podcast, where we're going to be talking all Packers after their narrow victory over the Chicago Bears. Little housekeeping nuggets here for you. Quick, don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Man Cave Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, like Apple or Spotify. But if you could do us a quick favor, really quick favor, if you could leave us a 5-star review and a positive review, or 5-star rating and a positive review, so that helps others find the podcast that way. That would be so awesome. Don't forget to leave me a voicemail. That phone number is in the podcast description. And don't forget to check out the Swag Cave. The link is in there, too, for your podcast show, Scotty Sports and Swag, all that good stuff here. So let's get right into it, though. Let's talk a little football. The Packers escaping by the skin of their teeth, thanks to a Carl Brooks blocking the field goal at the end there to secure a 20-19 victory over the Chicago Bears. Biggest picture here is that, they got that W. We know it was not pretty. It was not good. There was a lot of stuff going on with this game. But at this point in time, I'm not apologizing for a win, and nobody should be apologizing for a win at this point. With all that being said, there were definitely some issues, though, too, right? I mean, let's call a spade here. There was a few things with this thing. Maybe it was just me. I know it wasn't just me because I was talking to a couple people after the game and such, and during the game. I really, really felt like this was a game that I don't know if I want to. I almost felt like the Packers won in spite of some really poor coaching decisions, especially from Matt LaFleur. I almost felt like Green Bay escaped this one with some very poor play calls at certain points and just decisions overall in this game. I don't think it was one of the greatest performances from Matt LaFleur in terms of decision standpoints and even certain play calls. Again, we went into this game talking about one of the key matchups in this game was going to be the Packers' red zone offense, which has been atrocious this year, and they're going up against the number 1 ranked red zone defense. Now, when you look at it, Green Bay was able to put up 3 touchdowns, but there was also a couple times in the red zone where they had a turnover on downs and an interception. And some of the turnover on downs, what it's like, what it was kind of some confusing play calls. And this was a game, and there's been other games too where we've questioned some decisions from Matt LaFleur coaching, but this was a game that it really felt like there was a few times, whether it was some questionable timeouts or questionable challenge, like the challenge for Jordan Love to challenge if he was in the end zone or not. I mean, if you really thought you were going to struggle to get it in from 6 inches, I don't know. Maybe better to save that timeout just in case you need it for another game-winning drive or something like that. It just felt like this was a game where Matt LaFleur was not on his A game for a lot of it. So I almost felt like the team won in spite of some questionable decisions, play calls, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, you look at, Jordan Love with another bad interception, bad fundamentals, throwing off his back foot, air-mailing Tucker Kraft on that throw. Wasn't all bad for Jordan Love, though. Made some good decisions. You could tell Jordan Love was more healthy in this game, using his legs, picking up first downs, scrambling, extending the pocket, stepping up into the pocket. You could tell he was probably the healthiest we have seen him since week 1. I mean, that looked a little bit more like a comfortable Jordan Love out there. Still, there was a couple throws too, not even an interception. There was a couple, especially I think it was like his first throw or in the first drive. It's like really tight coverage over the middle. There was a couple throws that just kind of made me like pucker up a little bit. What are you doing there, man? What are you doing there, man? And even like the bomb to Christian Watson, one of the bombs to Christian Watson, when he had Tucker Kraft wide open, and Jordan Love acknowledged it after the game too, that, he had Tucker Kraft wide open. That probably was the better play, but thankfully Christian Watson was kind of in the zone yesterday, and big play Christian making those catches. That was the prototypical no, yes type of thing. But I got to imagine they're probably going to be like, you know what? Tucker was pretty wide open over there too for a big gain. Maybe look at that. But and then defensively, you could tell, and Kenny Clark and I believe it was Xavier McKinney mentioned it after the game too, that they were a little surprised with how much the Bears were doing running with Caleb Williams, whether it was on read options and that sort of thing. And we knew, right? We knew that Chicago was going to probably do a few different things, a few different wrinkles out there. And they got the ball out quick. I mean, it was short passing. It was snap, quarterback, throw. They were making quick passes, quick, kind of things that you would expect, at least at the beginning of the season, for a rookie quarterback, just to try to get into a groove, try to settle it down, try to gain some confidence. It was a quick passing game. And Caleb Williams ended up going 23 of 31 for 231. Also 9 rushes for 70 yards. So credit to Thomas Brown, the new offensive coordinator, and the Bears for getting Caleb Williams in a little bit of a rhythm and just kind of, trying to gain some confidence over there too. And that was a smart choice. Now, I kind of question a little bit how if Green Bay truly wasn't prepared for Caleb Williams to be a little bit more mobile, or maybe for a quicker passing game, because you look at Detroit. We go back to that Detroit game. That's what Jared Goff and that offense did a lot. They did a lot with the short passing game and getting it out to their playmakers and really utilizing the middle of the field. It's like a question now that Jeff Hafley is going to have to figure out is, how do I prepare for, how do I prepare my defense for going up against offenses now that are going to want to employ a quicker passing game and, trying to get it out to the receivers, tight ends, backs, but a quicker passing. How do I prepare for this? How do I slow that down? How do I stop that? One would be, do you play a little press man covers? Do you play those corners up a little tighter? I don't know what's going on with Jair Alexander. I know Ian Rappaport said after the, last night on social media that it's nothing serious, that he's okay, just kind of going through the same stuff he's been going through. And my question is, well, what is he going through exactly? What's the issue with his knee? To get cleared and only play 10 snaps. I mean, what's the actual issue going on with that knee, for crying out loud? So, I mean, you obviously, if you're going to play press man and you're going to do that, you'd want your best corner out there in Jair. But, when you look at San Francisco and Miami, I know San Francisco's reeling right now, but, they've got some offensive weapons. And in Miami, of course, we know with their speed, if they're looking at this with Packers defense, like, okay, maybe we start to employ, a little bit more of that quicker passing game, getting it out to our receivers quick. How does Jeff Hafley, how does the Packers defense respond to that? How are they able to do that? Quicker passing game neutralizes pass rushes quite a bit, but, is it extra blitzing? Is it bringing pressure right away? I might have to be a mixture of that both. It might have to be, all right, you're going to have to put a little confidence. You're going to have to put a little bit more in your corners, a little bit more trust in your corners to play that press man, to play that aggressive coverage, and maybe you bring some extra blitzers here or there, especially since your front four has not consistently been winning their one-on-ones. Hasn't consistently been bringing pressure without extra, blitzes in that. So that's something Hafley's going to have to figure out. I mean, look at the next 3 weeks. I could easily see these next 3 offenses employing a shorter, quicker passing game to get the ball out to their playmakers. San Francisco, Miami, and Detroit again. Something that Hafley's got to figure out. He's got to figure this out. And, staying on the defensive side here, Quay Walker, man. I mean, kudos to him for trying to be a leader. I don't know if anybody was watching on the tube and that and the shot of him trying to rile up his defense on the sideline and that. Quay Walker, there was a few plays yesterday where I'm like, what's going on, man? Especially on the one, was it fourth down when it looked like he just stopped instead of trying to sack Caleb Williams? I don't know. But then there was like a couple run plays where he was there. He met the runner. He was there. But the runner ended up getting positive yards. Whether it was 3, whether it was a couple, like on one of those touchdown runs. Quay Walker was there. His reaction was there. He got there. He used his athleticism. He used his speed. He got there. But he couldn't take down the ball carrier. I was watching the Chiefs and Bills game yesterday and seeing, guys like Leo Chanel out there. And it's like when they get one-on-one, that ball carrier goes down. Watching those linebackers from like Kansas City and that, when they hit somebody, when they hit a ball carrier, that ball carrier is going down. When they meet them, they're going down. That runner ain't going forward. They're going straight down. And that's what I want from our linebacker who is going to be, playing middle linebacker or whatever. I want that linebacker to meet that ball carrier. When they meet that ball carrier, that guy ain't going anywhere. He ain't going anywhere after that. And there was a few times yesterday where I'm just like, Quay, like he got there, but it's just they can't get him down. Can't get him down right away, and that was, gotta tell you, that was frustrating a lot yesterday. I know it wasn't the only one. I know a lot of people on the socials were kind of grinding their gears about that too. Looking at the play snaps here, Edgerrin Cooper did get 71% of the snaps. Quay Walker still played 100%, 100% of the snaps. But Eric Wilson, a guy that I think we all think should be getting more snaps, more playing time, 13 snaps, 18% on defense. Eric Wilson needs to get more playing time. They got to get him on the field more. Got to get him on the field more. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this rotation in terms of edge rushers here, too. Gary had 64% of the snaps. Then Enoch Barry had 57. I was kind of curious to see how the rotation was going to go with no Preston Smith here. And then the next, you had Lucas Van Ness at 35. Just 35. But you had Cox out there. I know he had a couple of free runs, but there was a couple times, too, you could see his speed on display, not counting the open ones, not counting where he just came unblocked in that. He got 31% of the snaps, too, just three snaps behind Lucas Van Ness. So curious to see if he's going to get a little bit more opportunities going forward here, just to get some speed, just to get something, consistently off the edge here a little bit. And that's honestly, maybe that's where Quay Walker needs to go here too, is just being a guy that comes on the blitz or something, use that athleticism, use that speed over there, because I don't know, I want a thumper at a linebacker right now. And there was a couple times where, again, he was there, but he couldn't just take him down. So that was a little frustrating, no question about it. But, again, got the W. It wasn't the prettiest thing. It was kind of, this is another win, too, where it just felt like we have not seen a how do I want to say this? We're 10 games in to the season, and, have we seen the best of the best yet? Have we seen the best performance of Green Bay? Now, I think they've had, given circumstances, I look at like the Colts and Tennessee to an extent too, given the circumstances heading into those games and playing with a backup quarterback, those were fantastic wins to be able to come out of there. So I think when you see people say, well, they haven't played their A game yet, I think when you look at the circumstances with Indianapolis and Tennessee, those were pretty dang close to it, given what was going on and who was playing and such. But when your main players are out there, and specifically your starting quarterback, and when you got your dudes out there, I think it is fair to say, like, we haven't quite seen that full-on A+, perfect, dominating type of game. And I think a lot of people are just still waiting to see that happen, because you got all the talking heads out there. Again, we're talking about this is the team that's maybe best suited, or one of the best teams, or one of the teams best suited to take down the Lions and all that. I saw Alex Smith talking about that and such, and saying that they got to unleash, Jordan Love a little bit more in that. And I'm like, okay, I don't know about the unleash part there a little bit, but I think we're just all kind of waiting for that dominating, that perfect type of game. It feels like, again, are they not clicking on all cylinders? And maybe that's the positive part of this too, is that they are 7-3, that they are winning these one-score games, and we still are feeling like they're still not clicking. It's kind of the opposite a little bit of like when you have that team that's just on a roll and they're dominating in that, and they lose, and it's like, oh, that's a good loss for them. That's a good loss for them because it keeps them humble. Kind of refocuses and keeps them set. Winning camouflages, hides a lot of the bad stuff. Well, I think in Green Bay's case, they're winning, but it's still evident that they've got some issues that they got to figure out. That they've got to figure out some of the stuff. Now, I will say they had, yes, the one penalty that was in the red zone. It was the illegal man downfield, but that was an RPO. And Brady did a really good job of explaining it. I thought actually Brady did a better job calling this game than his previous Packers game. But Brady did a really good job explaining it was an RPO. Lineman, going down. They went in thinking it was a run. So linemen are run blocking. They're going down the field. Jordan Love pulled it back. He's got to get that out quicker. The play wasn't there, so you get the penalty. I kind of put that one off to the side. Overall, penalty-wise, I thought Green Bay cleaned up a lot of stuff. I know the Xavier McKinney one, that was ticky-tack for crying out loud, but it kind of felt like it was almost maybe a makeup one from a couple plays earlier and such. But for the most part, offensive linemen, I thought they had I think this offensive line, outside the penalties, and this was a good game for Green Bay in that sense. But offensive linemen overall, I think this group is maybe one of the most underrated units in the league in terms of pass protection. You look at what they've been able to do in the running game and such. You don't hear a whole lot about this group collectively, yet they're one of the best in terms of not giving up sacks. And I feel like they're a little underrated at this point as a collective unit. They're solid. They're pretty darn solid. And guys like Rasheed Walker, even Sean Ryan, Josh Myers, we know about Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins. Those guys are having solid seasons. Yes, some stupid penalties, stupid, miscues and that at the beginning part, but overall in terms of like pass protection and run blocking, they've done a lot of good stuff over there. So this is like the almost like a perfect win for a coach where, hey, we got a lot of stuff we got to work on. It's going to be, a lot of coaching points and all that. You got the win, which is the most important thing, but it's like they get to hammer home a lot of different stuff. It wasn't like a 50-0 blowout where there wasn't a whole lot maybe that they could point out as a coach and all that. This is that win where a coach can sit there and be like, okay, but we still got to do this. And Matt LaFleur, too, I think has to go over a little self-reflection, too, because, again, as I said at the beginning, I felt like this was a game that he was off, too, in terms of some decisions, in terms of some play calls and that. But I think, I know Carl Brooks got the game ball afterwards, and they only gave one game ball, and that was to Carl Brooks in that, which I totally understand. And shout out to, if this was true, where Rich Bisaccia apparently said they were planned for this. Apparently, said too, if we come out of this game without a blocked kick, I'll be surprised. And lo and behold, it was a blocked kick that saved the game for them. But that's a credit to Bisaccia and the coach staff looking at it like, okay, identifying a weakness or identifying a hole to potentially make a play, and it worked. But we got to give a lot of love to Christian Watson in this game too. Josh Jacobs grinding out some tough yards in this game. But Christian Watson, I mean, for some of his plays, obviously the diving catch and getting up and making that run, or the deep catch, contested catch down the sideline, Christian Watson made some plays. And really, I think you can make the argument maybe saved the offense or saved the team overall with some of his catches and some of his big plays. For all the dropsies that this unit has gone through this year, Romeo had one yesterday. You think about dropsies, you think about Christian Watson and his rookie season. He starts off, first play against Minnesota, long bomb in the breadbasket, drops it. And it's like, oh, he's instantly in Aaron Rodgers' doghouse. Later on that season, he has that game against the Cowboys. It's kind of his coming out party. But this is a game. This was an example of why Christian Watson is so valuable to this team. You'd like to maybe, have that consistent go-to guy like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase. But Christian Watson's that guy where he's your big play, taking the top off, speed guy that can go get those balls or outrun a dude. And I think Christian Watson is an underrated blocker in the running game too. But I think, we got to give a lot of credit to Christian Watson for his game yesterday. Big time catches, big time plays to extend those drives, put his team in a position. Christian Watson deserves a lot of praise here this morning. I know it was just 4 catches, but they were monstrous catches, monstrous plays that kept this team alive. We'll bring in Joe here. Joe, I gotta imagine as a coach, this is one of those games where we got the W, but they appreciate it because they still got a lot of stuff to talk about and go over with their players. Winning doesn't always.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt, Captain. I mean, when you look at that game and you look at the job that the coaching staff did at the Green Bay Packers and the players themselves, there is a lot of work to do. And first of all, Matt LaFleur, I don't know why you're going for it and not kicking the field goal late in the game. That to me was a panic move, one of the biggest head scratchers that I've seen. You kick that field goal, and then Green Bay just needs a field goal at the end and not the touchdown. And again, a lot of things could happen. I get it, but you still take the points in a situation like that. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting, LaFleur talked about this, that it was a wild card week, and by that I mean this. When Chicago replaced their offensive coordinator and brought in Brown to do the play calling, that's a wild card type of thing because Green Bay did not prepare for the running game that they saw. So it was kind of one of those things that they prepared early in the season for the running quarterbacks, but they didn't prepare for it yesterday. And so I think Green Bay was caught off guard with that, and I thought that was really interesting. But again, Matt LaFleur needs to do a better job. Period. End of discussion. I mean, the red zone offense, he still hasn't fixed that. Just too many things on that sideline right now. And again, I still think Matt LaFleur, one of the better head coaches, one of the better play callers in the NFL. But when you've got Josh Jacobs and you've got 2nd and 1, run the ball in the red zone. Run the ball in the red zone. So, yeah, definitely, I've said this before, no such thing as an ugly win because in the columns, it's win-loss tie. There's no UW for ugly wins. And so, it's one of those things I always say, I'll take the win. It's hard to win any given Sunday, et cetera, but a lot to clean up this back half of the year.
Yeah, it felt like that was one of those games yesterday. I just felt like it was almost the Packers won in spite of some poor decisions and poor play calling, from Matt LaFleur or even, some other coaches. Like even, challenging Jordan Love, whether he got in the end zone or not, when you're just 6 inches away. I'm like, that timeout could be pretty valuable depending on what happens in the previous drive. There was some really questionable stuff, and I almost felt like the team won in spite of that a little bit.
Absolutely. And again, I think Matt LaFleur was coaching from a bit of a panic perspective, and whether or not he's feeling it a little bit. And again, this, Captain, you and I talked about this. This whole team coming into last year was not the hunted, all right? And that includes Matt LaFleur. And so now they're the hunted, and that includes Matt LaFleur. And you're seeing a little bit of that pressure. You're seeing it in the players. I think you're seeing it in the coaching staff. The biggest thing for me is a lot of the same mistakes that plagued the Packers the first half of the year weren't fixed going into this Bear game. And again, they're 7-3. They're in sixth position in the NFC, so they're in good position right now. Matter of fact, if the season were to end today, I believe they're playing Philadelphia in the playoffs.
Arizona.
Arizona, gotcha. Mm-hmm. So they're in good position, I think. I feel they really are. There's just something missing with this team. And somebody yesterday on social media talked about this, that this team reminds him, and I can't remember who it was specifically, but reminds him, I believe, of the 95 Packers. 94 Packers go 9-7. They have lots of talent. They get into the playoffs. They win a game. There's high expectations for that 95 team. That 95 team goes 9-7. And so maybe last year put this team on the fast track a little bit too much. But again, lots to clean up, lots of question marks. At the end of the day, a W is a W. And I do put merit and weight, I do, into the switching of the offensive coordinators midweek. I think that does leave a little bit of a wild card. That being said, a lot to improve, especially over these next 2 weeks. Because, you've got two home games back-to-back. You've got the 49ers this Sunday, and then you got the Dolphins on Thanksgiving night. After those games, you go on the road to Detroit and Seattle. Those are two tough games coming up on the road that first part of December. So Green Bay needs to make these next 2 weeks count, and they've got to go back-to-back wins with the 49ers and Dolphins.
We've seen 2 weeks in a row now, when you count Detroit and Chicago, kind of employ a short, quick passing game against this Packers defense. How does Jeff Hafley counter that? What does he have to do? Because I got to imagine, you look at San Francisco, they're going to be looking at this and like, how are offenses moving the ball against Jeff Hafley? In the last couple of weeks, we've seen Detroit and Chicago have success with that quick, short passing game. How does Jeff Hafley adjust to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you look at it. Caleb Williams, 23 of 31. Now, only 6 yards per pass attempt. You compare that to Jordan Love, had some big plays. He was over 14 yards a pass attempt. So Green Bay right now, it's a true conundrum, and I mean that. And I'm not making light of it. Here's the thing: this team having issues getting pressure with their front four. Now they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, now teams are just taking what they're going to get. And again, when you look at time of possession, Green Bay could not get off the field. 36 minutes for Chicago, 23 to Green Bay. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing you've got to do is this. I think you've got to play a little bit more press man. Now, it does hurt that Jair is not in there. And, again, he was taken out of the game again. Now, I heard it was precautionary and nothing more happened to the knee. But I think you've got to play press man. And I think you've got to bring somebody from that linebacking core. You've got to find an extra blitzer. You've got to find an extra guy, if you will. And so if you're playing press man and you're really locking them down, and you get a little bit of extra pressure, and the quarterbacks are going to be content to throw short, hopefully you have an answer for it. So it's one of those things where there's just a combination of things. And again, you're not getting pressure with the front four. And so now you've got a blitz, which puts your secondary under a lot of pressure. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. When one thing is wrong with the defense, it kind of trickles down to the rest of it. But that's, if I were Jeff Hafley, moving forward, I would play more press man coverage to try to knock these guys off their routes, because if you knock them off their routes, the short routes shouldn't be there. And then bringing an extra blitzer from that linebacking core, and maybe it's time again. Edgerrin Cooper needs to see the field more. I think Wilson needs to see the field more. And I think Quay Walker needs to take a seat, because I think he is one of the problems right now. And again, I like Quay Walker, but he just can't see the play. And I think the Green Bay Packers are much better off with Edgerrin Cooper and or Eric Wilson out there.
You must have read my mind, because that's where my next question was going to go to. I mean, we saw Quay Walker again play 100% of the snaps yesterday, and then Wilson only playing 18% of the snaps yesterday. And there was a few plays, too, where it felt like Walker was there, but then, he gets to that point, but the runner still gains a yard or a couple yards. I know there was one on a touchdown. There was one on I think it might have been a third or fourth down. He's there, but he can't bring him down. And then the next game I'm watching Leo Chenal from the Chiefs just absolutely take down guys one-on-one where they don't gain those positive yards. I mean, at this point, I agree with you. Quay Walker's got to either do something different. Is he just better as a blitzing linebacker at this point? I mean, why do they keep doing it? Is it just because he's a first-round pick?
You know what? I think there is pressure with the first-round pick. I don't think there's a question. But, look, you don't have to be a coach. You don't even have to be an avid fan to see that Quay Walker right now, he's a liability out there. Mm-hmm. And there's just not there's not enough of a physical game to him that can make a difference. And so, yeah, I think at this point in time, one of the things Hafley could do is switch it up. Now, they talk about Edgerrin Cooper's practice habits. I don't care how good Quay Walker is in practice. It's not translating to games. And you play your best players, and right now, I don't have a question in my mind that Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper are better options than Quay Walker. So what does Jeff Hafley do? I think he does a couple of things scheme-wise, but then I think he gets better personnel out there. Mm-hmm. There's no question in my mind that you need to make that move. And if Green Bay doesn't make that move, that might be one of the things that derails a Super Bowl run or a long playoff run. Because if you're married to your first-round picks, if you're committed to playing them come hell or high water, you're going to sink. And I think Green Bay right now is seeing that with the Quay Walker. I get it. He's got the green dot. You got to switch that out. You got to do this. I get it. He's a likable guy. He practices well. Although it doesn't translate to games. And so, again, play your best players. And if Green Bay wants to make a run in the playoffs, if they want to make a run in the playoffs, it starts now. Mm-hmm. Absolutely starts now. And that starts with personnel. That starts with play calling. And that starts with in-game management by Matt LaFleur and the staff.
Got a couple minutes to the top of the hour here, Joseph. Now you got a desperate San Francisco team coming in after they lost yesterday. They're sitting at 5-5, but not that NFC West is way up in the air at this point. But we know we've got plenty of experience going up against San Francisco here, Joseph. How concerned are you with this game, or how nervous are you with this game?
I'm very nervous. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not going to bury the headline. I'm picking San Francisco. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to have a Shanahan-led team that is going to be pissed off, and they've had Green Bay's number. We know that, and I almost liken it to Green Bay could not get over the Dallas hump back in the 90s, and now it's the 49ers. And so I think right now Green Bay didn't show me anything to say that they can stand up to do the physical game that the 49ers are going to bring. So right now I'm picking the 49ers. And again, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm buying drinks at every bar in Eau Claire for being wrong. But right now, based on what I saw, this is a good football team the Packers are. I'm not throwing away the season, but this thing, we need to start seeing some A games from this football team and complete games if you want to be a believer in a long playoff run.
I agree with you, man. I'm definitely really nervous for this one. I like how you phrase it, too. Pissed off. You're exactly right, man. They are pissed off coming into this game. So. Oh,
no question. No question. And so it's kind of one of those things that I think the 49ers are going to be they're going to be hell-bent, man, and they're going to be making a statement. And this is a statement game against the Green Bay Packers. And, again, this is exactly why I'm picking the 49ers this week, and I hope I'm wrong, but I haven't seen the improvement and the little things cleaned up by this Packer squad.
I think I agree with you too, buddy. Hey, we appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the rest of the week, and one of these days we'll have a victory scotch, okay, bud?
Absolutely. Well, I'm in South Bend this week and then gone next week, so hopefully victory scotch the following week after that Miami Dolphin Thursday night game.
All right, that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Again, brought to you by our awesome friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. And don't forget to check out the Resonance Branding Company, Swag Cave. That link is in the podcast description. Until next time, and don't forget to leave us a voicemail too. All right, questions, comments, input, all that good stuff. That voicemail number is in the podcast description. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.